So welcome everyone. My name is Ashley Weinheimer. I'm one of the librarians on our customer success team here at McGraw-Hill. And in this webinar today, I'm going to be walking you through the RadReview site and all of the features that are available to instructors through an institutional account. Let me jump right into my demonstration of the site now and showing you first how do you log into your instructor account. So if you already have an existing instructor account, you can log in by going to the RadReview site, which you see on my screen here, which is just radreviewmhe.com. And then you can click sign in the top right corner here. So here's where you will enter your email address and password. So let me type that in. There we go. And that's actually also that same screen is where your students will log in, and I'll show you an example of what the student account looks like as well. So you both log in the same place, just as an instructor, you'll be logging into your instructor account. So let me switch over to my class that has some data in it here. Again, if you don't have an instructor login, or if you log in and you think maybe you're in a student account, you can always put your email address in the chat and I'll get back to you after the webinar. And once you log in, just the first thing to show you, you can always change your password or other account details. Just down here at the bottom, there's a little icon with your profile information. So you can add a picture if you so wish. You can change your password or any of your contact information here. So just to show you where that's available once you get logged in. And then let me go back to the main dashboard here. And this is the instructor dashboard. So here you'll be seeing information on all of your students that are enrolled in your RadReview class section. And I'll show you how to add students if you don't have any students yet. You won't be seeing anything show up on this screen until you have existing students. So for your existing students, you can quickly see the number of students that are enrolled in this particular class. You can see the number of questions answered by those students in the last 90 days, as well as the number of assignments. So there's 14 total assignments in this class section, and then I can see how many are scheduled, in progress, or completed. This box over here in black shows the % of questions your students answered correctly on both their student practice questions and on the questions that you assigned them. And I'll show you those differences a little bit later in the presentation as well. And then the rest of this instructor dashboard has a most challenging topics table. So this table will show you all of the major exam topics and the performance of your class for each different topic. So you can see what your students have been doing well in and areas where maybe they haven't been doing so well. And just a reminder too, for everything on the site, there will be these little question marks. So if you forget what anything means from what I've explained today, you can always click on any of these question marks and it will explain what the metrics are showing or what that particular option is. Okay, and then I mentioned class sections. So up here in this top right corner, this tells me what class section I'm currently in. So when I came in, I was actually in a different class section that didn't have any students in it. So you can easily change between any of your class sections that you're an instructor for there. So as an instructor, you can have multiple class sections. So you see I have quite a few in my demo account here. You can also have co-instructors on your class sections. So another instructor would be able to come in here and share your students and your assignments with you as well. So that's another option. However, your student accounts, they can only be in one class section at a time. So that's something to consider when you and your colleagues are setting up class sections in RadReview. Instructors can have multiple class sections, but students can only be in one at a time. And each student account, you can move them between class sections, but they would lose the previous data from the class section that they were being moved from. So if anyone has questions on that, I can explain that further in the Q&A portion as well. But I just wanted to mention that so you can think about how you want to set up your classes. So let me show you how you can set up a class section. So I'm just going to expand this left menu here so I can see what these different categories are. And if I go in here to manage class, here I can see and add new class sections. So again, as I mentioned in my demo account, I'm the instructor for several different class sections. So I have 3 in here. There were more on that drop-down menu because some of those are actually disabled. This is just showing me active class sections. So you can switch that if you want to see something you've disabled. And I also want to point out here, so I mentioned the co-instructors. So this last one, the RadReview course, I can see that Instructor Demo is the instructor here, but I also have a co-instructor on that particular class section as well. And if I hover over that, I can see the co-instructor's name. And it actually looks like for this particular class section, I have 2 co-instructors with me on that class section. So it can be multiple instructors attached to a class. So on this screen, you can click through and see information on any of your class sections. And you can also create a new class section. So let me show you that option. Up here in the right-hand corner, there is a plus class section button. If I go ahead and click on that, I can enter my class section name and then choose the course. Should always be set to RadReview course here. And if I click save, that will go ahead and create that class section. So again, if you have different cohorts of students, if you have different courses that you're teaching to different groups of students, class sections can be a good way to keep things separate so you're only seeing results and assigning things to specific groups of students. So that's what you would do there. Let me go back into an existing class section. So here's the section that I'm in. And if I click on that, I can see who is already in this class. So I can see all of those students there. And then I have some options at the top here. So for an existing class section, or when you create a new one, you can always add students from the top here. So there's an option to add students sort of one by one. In that case, you would have to create their password for them and communicate that to them. So that's an option. And there's also an add multiple students option, which is a little bit easier for the instructors. Here, all you have to do is add the students' email addresses separated by a comma. So you can add a whole list of students here, and then your students will actually get an email automated from the system that will have them complete the process, fill in the rest of the details for their account, and create their own password. So that's a nice option for instructors as well. And then once you have all your students in here, you can see information on the students. So here I can see, I believe I have 12 students in this section. I can see their name, their email address, and when they've last logged in. So you can see some of my students haven't logged in yet. So that might prompt you, they haven't created their account, they haven't been able to log in, to reach out to that student. And then you can see your other students if they've been able to successfully log in and if they've been using the site. And there's also an option here to view as this student. And again, I'll show you the student view a little bit later in the presentation. Okay, so that's how you would create students and monitor your existing students. I do want to show you occasionally when you go to add students. So I'm just going to put in 2 names here. You'll get an error message. So let me try to add these 2 students. And you'll see that it says registration failed for these users. So in this case, the first one, it's telling me they're already registered as a retail user. And then the second email address is already subscribed. So basically what this means is, again, you can only have 1 account per username in the system. So this first student here has already subscribed as a retail account. So they have either paid for a subscription or gotten a free preview subscription previously. So that would be something where you need to contact my team at McGraw-Hill, and we could get that student switched over. In the second case here, where it says already subscribed, this student is actually already in a different class section in my institution. So if I needed them to be in my class section, I would have to move them over. So again, that's something that we can help with if you ever see those error messages. But I just wanted to show you that that occasionally comes up. And again, always feel free to reach out to customer success, and we're happy to sort out any issues that come up like that. Okay. And then some other things you can do from this screen when you're managing your class section. There is this action drop-down menu here. So I mentioned you could add a co-instructor. So this is where you could do that. Here you can see I'm already on here as an instructor, and then if I click, I get the list of all the other instructors associated with my institution that I could add as a co-instructor to this course. So that is where you would do where you would add your co-instructors. You can also disable this class section. So I mentioned that on the screen where I was searching through class sections. You have the option to disable an entire class section. So if you're done with this, your students don't need to log in anymore. You can disable this whole class section and all your student accounts will be disabled for that class section. You can also just deactivate certain students from your class section. So that's an option there. There you would use the checkboxes to select specific students, and then you could deactivate the students, just the students you've selected. For individual students, you can also reset their password or edit any details of their account. So if you needed to change anything there, you could do that as well. And then this last option for move students is where you would be able to move them to a different class section if you needed to do so. But again, with the caveat that if you remove them from this class section to put them in another class section, all their data from this class section will be deleted. So that's sort of the options available from this manage class window. Okay, so once you've set up your class section, you've added your students, you can start creating assignments for your students to take. So next, let's go into the assignments section, again from the left menu here, so you can see the different options that are available here. So this first screen that comes up is the assignment status page, which shows me again how many assignments I have created, how many are scheduled, in progress, and completed by my students. So you can see that progress bar across the top, and then I can see them listed here as well. So here I can see some at the bottom that are in progress, and then a lot of these have been completed already. For each, I can see how many students it was assigned to and the number of questions, and I can see for these ones that are still in progress when those will be completed, when those are due. So I have 2 that are due tomorrow for my students in this class section. So I'll show you the results in a minute, which you can also see from this screen. But first, I want to show you how to create assignments and the options there. So on this screen at the top here, I have this new assignment button. So I can go ahead and click on that, and then I'll have 4 different options for creating assignments. So the first option is to select from the instructor question bank. So if we choose that option and hit continue, you'll have access to all 830 questions in the instructor bank available here. So they're just available in a list, so you could go through them that way. And you also have some filter options, so you can narrow that down and get specific questions that you want. So there are available filters on the left here for the different learning objectives. So you can pick a topic from there. You can filter by particular question types or difficulty levels, or any combination of those as well. And then you can also use this search bar at the top here to search the question text for particular topics or words here. So I'm just going to search for privacy and see my results there. So here I have 4 questions that have the word privacy in them. I can see the questions here. I can preview them, so I can actually see the full question text and the answer. And then it also lists out the difficulty level and the learning objective. And then I can select questions with the check boxes here. So let's just select all of those. And I can also see here at the bottom of each particular question if I've used this question before. So I can see I've used this question already 1 time, and I can see what particular assignment that I've used that on. So here I've used this question on my quiz number 3. This is a little bit confusing. This total number is for your entire instructor account, not just the particular class section you're in. So it's always a good idea to have unique names for your assignments. Like here, I've named it the class section name and then an assignment name, just so that you can tell at a glance, have I used this for this particular class section before, not just in my whole instructor account. So that's a little tip for that one there. Okay, and then I could also, so I selected 4 questions here. I can keep going. I can type in another topic here, say I want communication, and just continue adding questions. So I'll just pick 2 more. You can see my number goes up. So now I have 6 total questions that I've selected. So I'll just hit continue with those 6 questions. And then I have some more information to fill out here. So here I can add my assignment name. So I think I'm on 6 in my numbering scheme, you can put any instructions that you want for students here. And then you also have some options for releasing grades here. So again, the question mark will explain these to you, but basically the difference here is you can have an auto grade release, which as soon as students complete the assignment, they can see their grade, can see the correct answers. And then you also have a manual grade release where you are releasing those at a specific time. So if you want, all students have completed the assignment before you let them see their grades or their correct answers, you can set that as well. So those are the two options there. I can also set when this will become accessible to students. So it defaults to right now, but you can also set this for a later date. So if you want to create a bunch of assignments and have them released to students at different times, you can do that there. And then you can set the due date, which will be when the assignment closes to students and they can't access it after that point. So that's what the assignments that are done are called. So it doesn't necessarily mean that all students have completed all the questions, just that the due date has passed and that assignment is now closed. Here at the bottom, I can assign this to all students in a particular class section. So again, I have all my class sections listed here. I can see the student count, so I could just assign this to my whole 2021 cohort that I'm in currently. And I can also assign this to individual students. So I could search for their name here and pick a student from the list that way. And you can assign it to multiple individual students from this list. Okay, so those are sort of all the options for assigning this to students. So once you've selected everything here, let me make sure I have something selected for who I'm assigning it to. At the top, I can go ahead and assign this now. That'll get pushed out to the students, or I can click Use Later, which will save it to my library. So maybe I'm not done, I want to continue working on it or adjust some things. I can save this and work on it again later. So I'm just going to hit Assign Now. So you can see that you get this message that says it's been assigned successfully. And this message will also tell you again all of those settings that you've picked. So what students were assigned to it, when they can start the assignment, and what the grade selection you've picked is there as well. And then the students will get an email notification that they have an assignment and that they can come in and start taking it. Okay, so that was the first option for creating assignments. So that's sort of the most involved one, where you're really going through each question and picking them out from that instructor question bank. I'm going to click on New Assignment again and show you some of the other options. So there's also an option to auto-select questions from the instructor bank. So if I click Continue with that one, here I don't see that whole list of questions. I just have some criteria that I'm picking, and then the system will automatically select random questions that match my criteria. So here I can set the number of questions I want this assignment to have. So it defaults to 10, but you can set this to anything you want. So if you wanted this to be sort of a practice exam, you could have it be 200. I'm just going to stick with 10 for this example. I can also pick the difficulty level. So if I want just easy questions or just hard questions, I can select unused questions. So again, that would be unused by me as an instructor in my instructor account. So again, you can see there's currently 575 questions that match my selection criteria because I've used a lot of them already. If I uncheck that, I get back to the full instructor question bank there. I can also, again, select my question type or specify specific learning objectives. So again, that defaults to all, or I can select specific learning objectives from each of the categories here. So I'm just going to select everything under patient care here. And again, you can always see that number changing, telling you how many questions you have available. And you can see here too, next to each particular topic under each category, how many questions are available for each of those. So that can help you plan out how many questions you want here. So once I have all my settings selected there, I can go ahead and click Add, and that will add 10 questions to my selected tab. So here I can go to that tab and I can actually see the questions. Again, I can preview them. So I can see all of the information, the question, the answer, and what type of question it is here. So this doesn't give me an indication if I've used this question before like that other one is. So that's where you could use that unused filter if you didn't want any repeat questions. From here, you can also delete questions. So if you decided, I don't really like that particular question, I'll just remove it. Now I have 9 questions. I can always come back to the screen if I wanted a full set of 10. I just want it to pick one more question for me. I'll go ahead and add that, and now I'm back to 10. I can check on what question it added, see if I like that one better, or I can just hit continue once I have all of the questions that I need there. So that's just maybe a little bit of a quicker way of selecting questions. Again, if you don't, want to preview them, if you're fine with whatever is randomly selected, that can be a very fast way to create assignments, and you can even create them on specific topics. So again, here I have the same options to enter my assignment name, the grade policy, the accessible from dates, and then assign this to specific students or to my class sections. So I'm just gonna call this quiz number 7, and I'll just save it to my library. And then to talk about the library, so I've just saved that to my library. I'll go back to the assignment screen. If I go to new assignment here, the other option here is to select an assignment from my library, or you can also get to your library from this main assignment screen just by clicking the library button there. But I'll show you this way. Click continue. This will have, so there I see the one that I saved to work on later, the one I just assigned to my students, and then every other assignment that I've created in my instructor account as well. So you can always reassign something to students. You can edit it if you want to change something and then reassign it. Or again, if you're teaching the same class over to different students, you'll always have the assignments that you created available, so you can reassign those to students if you so wish. So that's the option for my library. You'll see again, they have the edit or assign button. So you can edit them, or you can just click assign, which will get you back to this same screen where you can assign this to particular students. Okay, and then the last choice from this assignments tab here. So I'm clicking on new assignment again. So the very fourth choice, last choice here, is to select a test from the mock test library. So the instructor mock test is a pre-made test with 200 questions. And oops, I clicked on that. Let me go back here. So you can see on that screen, before you click through into the test, the breakdown of the different topics there. So it told you how many questions were in each different category. So let me get back to that screen. There we go. So it's telling you how many questions are in the different categories. So this is set to match the official exam specifications in terms of the number of questions per those different categories. And all of the questions in this mock test are completely unique, and they can't be found anywhere else in RadReview. So these are not duplicating questions that you assign to students from any of those other 3 options, or any questions that students could have practiced on their own. We do say students should plan to spend 3 hours taking this test, but they do have the option within it to pause and resume it later. So that is available to them. And again, if you go into here and click on this, you can see information on the questions here. And then let me go back, and again, you can get the same choices to assign this to students. So continue here, and then assign will take me to this same screen. So you are able to assign this to students multiple times. You'll just have to wait until all of the students who were assigned it the first time have completed it before you can come in and reassign it to those same students. But you could definitely come in and assign this to your class again, or to specific students, again, with this assigned to individual students if you have just a few students who need to take it again. And the students also have their own version of the mock exam, which I'll show you when we get to the student demo. Okay, so once you've created your assignments, your students have completed their assignments, now you want to see how they did. So you can click on the reports option from the menu here. Oh, actually, go back to assignments first. So again, I mentioned you can see when assignments are done, and then you can click to see the results for that particular assignment. Oops, let me pick an assignment that my students actually did here. Okay, so I believe this one has some results. Yep, so here we go. So here I can see this one's in progress. So all of my students haven't completed it yet, but I can see which students have completed it with the check marks here, and I can see how they did on each particular question. So you'll see the space if a student skipped a question, and then you can see a 0 or a 1 if they got that question right or wrong. And you can also click and view their response and see which incorrect question they picked there. So that's available for each specific assignment. You can see those results. You can see information again at the top here. So you can see 5 of my students haven't started it, 7 of them have completed it already, and it's still in progress until tomorrow at 2:23. So you can see all of that information right from the assignment screen. And then I can click on each particular student and see how they did on this particular assignment. It gives me a little graph of the different topics that are covered and their performance. I can see sort of a basic up-down, thumbs up, down mastery report here. And you can again see how we calculate what that icon is going to be there. So you can see that if you click on each particular student's name who has completed this particular assignment. So that's all available just from this assignments tab if you click on the Get Results option. And there is also a reports section that gives you some additional insight into student performance and your class's performance overall. So if I click on that reports option here, I can see I have 3 different sections. And again, the question mark will give you more information on what these reports are showing. So if you need a refresher later, but I will go through all of them now just to explain them and show you what these all look like. So the first one is the performance report, and this shows student performance for a selected date range. So here I have March to September. That's when I created this class, but you can set that to something different if you needed that. The performance report shows student performance as a percentage here. So you can view that as a percentage, or you can also change that to raw score, which you can see gives you number of correct questions answered out of total questions. So those are sort of the 2 options for the score that you can see there. And these graphs are showing overall student performance in this particular class section, and also the overall average performance by month. So you can see my particular students have been steadily declining in their performance over the months. And then down here at the bottom, I can see information on my particular students as well. Up here at the top, there's also, you can switch to a different class section from here if you wanted to view a different class section, and you can look at the particular category. So if I want to see how my students were doing on a specific topic, I can filter to that, or I can just see overall how they're doing. So switch that back to all categories. And again, down here in this table, I can click on any particular student's name, and that will show you that student's particular performance. Again, get the same graphs here, and then I can see broken down by month here in the graph, as well as by content category. So this is content category and month in the graph here, and you can also always download any of these. So if you needed to download that full class performance report, you can get that in a CSV file there. This next tab shows student performance. So again, this is the view that we were just looking at. You can sort of get to it from 2 different places. You can click on the student's name, or you can select your student from a drop-down menu here. So that'll give you that information there. And then the last tab here shows student performance specifically on the mock exam. So if you've not assigned that yet, or if your students haven't taken their version of the practice exam, you might not see anything in here. But once they've taken it, you'll be able to see their scores here. So again, this will show you all students, and you can also pick a particular student and see how they've done on that exam. And again, you can see either this as performance or a raw score. So that's available there as well. So those are the 3 different performance reports that you can see. There's also an engagement report section. This tracks student activities. So you can see how many items that you've assigned that they've completed. So here you can see that, how many have not started, how many are in progress and completed. You can also see If I click on a linked number here, that will give me information on everything that you've assigned and their score there, so you can get that for an individual student. Let me go back. So that was I just clicked on one of these linked numbers here. I can also in this graph see how much the students are doing on their own. So this study and practice completion section would be things that they're doing that aren't necessarily assigned to them. So you can see how many sections they've read in the learning modules. So how many sections they've completed there. So you can see one of my students has read 8 different sections, and I can also see how many practice quizzes they've completed. And again, I can click on that number and get more information on the practice quizzes and sort of how they've done on those. So that's available for all of the students. And then let me click in again so you can see sort of this overview of information, and you can also switch that there to assignments versus assessments. So the assignments are things that you've created and assigned to them, and assessments are things that they've done on their own. And I can also see in the last 2 columns here the amount of time that they've spent on the platform. So that's completing assignments, doing practice on their own, and the total number of questions they've attempted, again, across those assignments and assessment or practice. So that is all available, and you can export this as well. And then this top just gives you a basic summary of, how many assignments have been completed and the question performance summary. So you can see how many they've got correct, incorrect, or skipped of the questions that your students have taken. Okay, so that's the basic engagement report. There's also a student practice quiz report here. So again, only one of my students has been taking practice quizzes, but I can see all of my students who have done those quizzes in a list here. I can change the dates. So if I want to see how they've done over several months, I can do that there. And I can see just a basic rundown of how many questions they've gotten correct, incorrect, skipped, and their overall performance. So that's available for your students as well. So you can sort of see how they're doing on things you assign to them, and also how they're doing on their own. And then the last report option here is the mastery report. And this shows student performance by content category. So again, you can view this for your overall class here, and you can also see individual students. At the bottom here, you can see your students, and you can click on a student, and this will give you that information broken out by category. So you can see here, not every category is available just because I haven't assigned questions in every category that I could get a score for. But if you have assigned those all, you'll be seeing them show up in this graph here. And again, this one just sort of gives this quick thumbs up, thumbs down. You can always see what those mean here. The double thumbs up or the single thumbs up are defined in this little pop-up window here. And it also gives you the performance and the raw score as well there. So you can see that information, and it's also above here in this graph with the performance in each different category. So you can see that again for individual students or for the class overall, and you can expand this and see each of the sort of subtopics which within each of those 4 categories here as well. Okay, so that's the available reports. So again, those are available from the left menu here under reports. And now I'm actually going to quickly jump over and show you the student side so we can see what this will look like for your students and what they're able to do here. So again, I'm just going to the general RadReview site. Your students will come here as well, click sign in, and then they would sign in the same place, but with their student information. So here, when this loads, you'll see they get a similar dashboard to what you see. So they'll be able to see the number of assignments. They can set a target test date, so they can see how many days are remaining. They can see how many questions they've answered and their assignment progress there. So they can also see how many questions they've gotten correct on their practice and their assignments, their most challenging topics. So this will be for an individual student. And the system will also generate recommended readings for them based on their individual performance. So that can be really helpful for students as well. And if students come in here and they say, I don't see recommended reading, that's usually just because they haven't answered enough questions yet for this area to populate. So just tell them, you know, they have to go back and answer more questions, take more practice quizzes, and this will populate. So it doesn't populate right away as soon as you log in. And these readings, I mentioned those learning modules. So let me just click on one of these so we can see this. So the students have a learning center available. This is also available in the instructor account. So you can click on, again, any of those recommended readings if you're a student. You can also expand this menu, and here is the learning center, which will take you in here as well. So if you click on that, it just takes you to the overall. You can see the 4 modules. You can expand any of these and see the topics under there as well. So I'll just click on something here. So this section here, these learning modules, these are based on D.A. Saya's book, Radiography Prep. They're just put into a modular lesson format with different information and quizzes. So here I can click into a section here. I can read the information, see the diagrams, and then there will also be little quizzes in here that students can take. I'm just going to click on something here and they can see, you know, did they get that correct? They can get an explanation there as well. So that's available to students as well. And you can also search the module for a question or for a topic here. So if you were looking for something in particular, you can search through these learning modules too. And then anything that you assign to students will show up in the assignments section here. So I can see here any assignments that I haven't started yet that have been assigned to me, so I can go ahead and start those, or I can see anything that I've completed. I can see my score there, 4 out of 10, and the percentage score as well. And I can also see my results here, so this will tell me, you know, I can sort of see this graph, how I did, and then I can see how I did on each individual question, and you can click on a particular question that you maybe got wrong, and see what the correct answer was there. So that's available for students so they can sort of check on their progress. And then I mentioned the practice tests or the practice quizzes that students can take. So here's everything that you've assigned to them. They also have a start practice section here where they can take practice quizzes on their own. So here they can just take a random quiz, which will just randomly generate a 10-question quiz. Or they can also create their own quiz, which gives you some options similar to what we saw before with creating assignments. So they can choose a different quiz mode here for when you're seeing the correct answer. So practice mode reveals it right away, and then test mode, you can see them at the end. So they can choose that. They can choose their question type here. So again, if students are saying they can't create a quiz here, it's probably because they have it set to unanswered questions and they've answered all the questions. So they can always change that back to all, and you can see they have 1,700 questions available in their student question bank. And the questions in the student question bank, so these questions here, it's again a completely separate set of questions from the instructor question bank. So there will be no overlap between questions students are answering here in their practice on their own and ones that you assign to them. So you don't have to worry about, you know, some students having seen the questions you're assigning to them before. There's no overlap there. And again, students can pick their difficulty level or search for particular keywords or select learning objectives here as well. And then a nice option here, so they can set this to all, just questions they've not answered, questions they've gotten incorrect or skipped, and they can also mark any questions. So even if they got it right, maybe they thought it was tricky and they debated it, so they can always mark that question and then have a quiz of just those questions that they marked that they wanted to review again. So that's a popular option with our students too. Okay, so they can do this practice quizzes, which again, they have 1,700 questions available there. And they also have their own full-length test, which is here under full-length test. So this is, again, a completely separate full-length mock exam from the one that you can assign them as an instructor. So this will again contain the 200 questions that matches the official exam specifications. So students can come here and take this at any time, but they can only take it once from their student side. So you might want to advise them on when might be best for them to use that practice exam. But just again, through the institutional subscription, students actually have access to 2 full-length mock exams and over 2,500 completely unique questions. And then, again, I mentioned students can come in here, they can see their performance if they've completed it, and they can, if they're taking it, close out of it and come back to it. So that's available to them there. And students will also have a report section so they can keep track of their own performance and progress. And again, see areas where they might need extra review or practice so they can here see how they've done on quizzes. They have a skill report here. So this is showing them the categories and that mastery report as well. So, and here's some most challenging topics. This also lets them practice again, which will give them practice quizzes in this particular area. So those are all available. From the student side, they can see, again, specific questions that they've gotten correct or incorrect there. They can filter by how they've taken this quizzes. They can filter to a specific quiz that they've taken. They're just numbered. And again, they can show, just questions that they've gotten incorrect or marked for review there. So they can filter that in several different ways and keep track of their progress there. And then there's also a help section where we have some videos for students showing the different features in their account. So that can be a useful place to direct them for questions. And the instructor videos are available from the Instructor Dashboard. You'll have a help section with some videos for instructors as well. And always feel free to reach out if you have any questions about RadReview. We're always happy to help. I'll put the customer success email in the chat so that everybody has that. And always feel free to reach out if you have any questions.